Sitting alone at the elegant restaurant I'd reserved for 20 people, I stared at my mother's text through tears. "You're not exactly a priority right now." The champagne glasses sparkled mockingly as I celebrated becoming the youngest VP at my company completely alone. My phone buzzed with my cousin's social media post showing my entire family at a steakhouse celebrating my brother buying a jet ski. 3 years of secretly paying their mortgage, and this was my reward. The memory of 6 months ago felt like a lifetime away now. I'd stopped by my parents' house on a random Tuesday evening, planning to drop off some homemade soup for my mother, who'd been fighting a cold. What I found instead changed everything. My father sat at the kitchen table, his face buried in his hands, while my mother stood frozen by the window, clutching a foreclosure notice. The yellow paper might as well have been a neon sign announcing their financial disaster. They hadn't heard me come in through the side door, the one that never locked properly, the one I'd been using since I was 5 years old. 3 months behind, my father whispered to the tabletop. "How did we let it get to 3 months?" My mother's voice came out strangled. "The medical bills from your surgery, the car transmission, and Tyler said he'd help once he got that job." Tyler, my 26-year-old brother who'd been between opportunities for the past 2 years. The same Tyler whose PlayStation achievements seemed to be his only accomplishments lately. I backed out quietly, my heart racing. They never knew I'd overheard. That night, I sat in my apartment running numbers, calculating what I could afford. My salary as a senior analyst was better than most people my age, but taking on an extra $2,650 monthly meant serious sacrifices. The next morning, I called their mortgage company. Setting up automatic payments from my account was surprisingly easy. Too easy, maybe. I told myself it would be temporary, just until they got back on their feet, just until Tyler found work. But temporary has a way of becoming permanent when you're dealing with family. I threw myself into work with newfound intensity. Consulting projects that I'd previously turned down became my weekend plans. My social life dwindled to non-existent. Friends stopped inviting me places after the fifth declined invitation. Dating became a luxury I couldn't afford, not when every extra dollar went toward keeping my parents in their home. My workspace became a shrine to productivity. While my colleagues left at 6, I stayed until 10, 11, sometimes midnight. My boss noticed. The senior executives noticed. They saw dedication where really there was desperation. Meanwhile, Tyler lived his best life in our parents' basement. New gaming systems appeared with regularity. His car somehow always had fresh modifications. Designer clothes replaced his worn jeans. When I questioned it during Sunday dinners, he'd wave me off. "Investment returns," he'd say with that confident smile that had been getting him out of trouble since childhood. "Cryptocurrency is the future amity. Maybe if you weren't so stuck in your traditional ways, you'd understand." My parents beamed at him. Their entrepreneur son, their visionary. Never mind that entrepreneurs usually entrepreneur something. The real twist came last month when I ran into our mutual friend Derek at a coffee shop. He looked uncomfortable when he saw me shifting his weight and avoiding eye contact. "How's Tyler's job search going?" I asked, making conversation. Derek frowned. "Job search. He told me he's been too busy to hang out because of all the family drama. Said you've been really difficult lately, refusing to help your parents with their bills. He said that's why he can't take that marketing position, because he needs to stay home and support them." The coffee cup nearly slipped from my hand. "He said I refused to help." "Yeah, said you make good money but won't share with family, that you think you're better than them now." Derek studied my face. "That's not true, is it?" I wanted to scream the truth, to show him my bank statements, to reveal the sacrifice behind my designer eye bags. Instead, I just shook my head and changed the subject. Family business stayed in the family even when family was stabbing you in the back. 5 years. That's how long I'd been climbing this particular mountain. 5 years since I walked into Morrison and Associates as a fresh college graduate with a business degree and more ambition than experience. This path to vice president wasn't supposed to be available to someone my age. Company tradition dictated at least a decade of service before consideration. But tradition bent when faced with exceptional performance, and I'd made sure mine was nothing short of stellar. The competition was fierce. 12 candidates, all with more seniority, all with reasons why they deserved the position more than a 28-year-old woman who still got carded at business dinners. Among them was Janet Morrison, my mentor, the woman who'd taught me everything about navigating corporate politics. Competing against her felt like betraying a friend, but she'd been the one to push me to apply. "This industry needs fresh blood in leadership," she'd said over martinis one evening. "I've had my time. This is yours." The interview process was grueling. 7 rounds over 3 months. Presentations to the board, strategic planning exercises, leadership assessments. I prepared for each round like my life depended on it, because financially speaking, it did. 80-hour weeks became my norm. Holidays passed in a blur of spreadsheets and strategy documents. My last relationship ended via text message when I missed Valentine's Day for a critical client meeting. "You love that job more than you'll ever love a person," he'd written. He wasn't entirely wrong. Thanksgiving came and went with me eating Chinese takeout at my desk, crafting a 5-year growth plan for the company's emerging markets division. Christmas was spent on a conference call with Tokyo. New Year's Eve found me redesigning our entire client retention strategy. My parents complained about my absence, of course. "Family comes first," my mother would say during our increasingly rare phone calls. "Your brother makes time for us despite his busy schedule." If only she knew her busy son's schedule consisted primarily of Call of Duty tournaments and YouTube videos. The final interview was with Charles Morrison himself, the CEO and founder. He was 72 sharp as a surgical scalpel and had a reputation for seeing through pretense like it was tissue paper. "Why should I give this position to you instead of someone with more experience?" he asked, his gray eyes piercing. "Because I don't just work for this company," I told him. "I live it. I breathe it. Every decision I make is about pushing us forward, not maintaining the status quo. Experience teaches you what worked yesterday. Innovation shows you what'll work tomorrow." He leaned back, a small smile playing at his lips. "Janet said you'd say something like that." The call came on a Wednesday afternoon. I was in the middle of reviewing quarterly projections when my phone rang. Charles Morrison's personal line. "Congratulations, Vice President Amity," he said without preamble. "You start Monday. Don't make me regret betting on potential over pedigree." I sat in stunned silence for a full minute after hanging up. Then the tears came, 5 years of exhaustion and sacrifice pouring out in my empty office. I'd done it. The promotion meant a salary that would let me breathe again, that would make the mortgage payments manageable instead of crushing. Planning the celebration dinner became my outlet for all that pent-up emotion. 20 people, all the important figures in my life. The restaurant was La Bernardine, the kind of place where appetizers cost more than most people's entire meals. But I wanted to mark this moment properly. I sent the invitations 2 weeks in advance, beautiful digital cards with gold lettering. Family, close friends, mentors. I even included Tyler, hoping this might inspire him to aim higher. My assistant Catherine helped with the planning. "You want me to follow up with RSVPs?" she asked. "No need," I told her. "It's family and close friends. They'll be there." The morning of the dinner, I called my mother. "You got the invitation right. Tonight's really important to me." "Oh, sweetie, things are just so hectic right now," she said, sounding distracted. "Tyler has some big announcement too. We'll see what we can do." I should have heard the dismissal in her voice, should have recognized the pattern, but hope makes us blind to patterns we don't want to see. My phone buzzed with a text from Derek that afternoon. "Hey, ran into Tyler. He said something about your family not getting your dinner invites. Thought you should know he was laughing about it." I checked my sent folder. The invitations had definitely gone out. But then I remembered something that made my blood run cold. Last month, Tyler had asked to use my laptop to check his email. "Phone's dead," he'd said. I thought nothing of it at the time. I pulled up my browser history from that day. Sure enough, he'd logged into my parents' email accounts. Their passwords were probably still their anniversary date, like they'd been for the past decade. The confirmation was in their deleted folder, restored with a few clicks. Not just deleted, but deleted from the trash too. He'd covered his tracks, but not well enough. "Catherine," I called to my assistant, "can you check if anyone called about the Morrison dinner reservation?" She came back 5 minutes later looking puzzled. "Actually, yes. Someone called this afternoon to confirm the party was still happening. A young man. I told him everything was set." Tyler knew exactly where I'd be tonight, and he'd made sure I'd be there alone. La Bernardine gleamed like a jewel on Fifth Avenue, its windows casting warm golden light onto the sidewalk, where I stood smoothing down my new dress for the third time. The navy blue fabric had cost more than I usually spent on clothes in 6 months, but tonight was worth it. Tonight was everything I'd worked for. The maitre d' recognized me from my reservation. "Ms. Amity, your private dining room is ready. Your guests—" "They'll be here soon," I said with more confidence than I felt. The private room was perfect. Crystal glasses caught the candlelight, creating tiny rainbows on the white tablecloth. 20 place settings arranged with military precision. The champagne chilled in silver buckets, waiting for toasts that were supposed to celebrate new beginnings. 7 o'clock came and went. I nursed a glass of water, arranging and rearranging my napkin. The waitstaff moved like shadows, professionally invisible, but unable to hide the glances they exchanged. 7:15, I texted Janet, "Running late." Her response came immediately. "Late for what, dear?" My stomach dropped. "The dinner, my promotion dinner." 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. Then, "Amity, I never received an invitation. Is everything all right?" 7:30. The empty chairs seemed to multiply, each one a testament to my irrelevance. The head waiter approached with the careful steps of someone delivering bad news. "Ms. Amity, would you like us to hold the appetizers a bit longer?" "Just a few more minutes." I managed my voice, barely above a whisper. I opened my social media, desperate for distraction for any explanation. That's when I saw it. Madison's story posted 12 minutes ago. A crowded steakhouse, table glasses raised high, my entire extended family crammed into frame. The caption, "Family night out for the real success story." The camera panned across familiar faces. My aunts, my uncle's cousins I hadn't seen in months, my grandmother in her good pearls, and there at the center of it all, Tyler, grinning, triumphant, a bright orange cocktail raised high. My hands shook as I switched to my mother's profile. She'd posted too, "So proud to support our successful children. Some dreams are worth celebrating." I called my father first. It rang 4 times before he answered, and I could hear the restaurant noise in the background, the same celebratory chaos I was supposed to be surrounded by. "Dad, where are you?" "Oh, hi, sweetheart. We're at Morton's Steakhouse. Tyler has some exciting news about a business venture. Did you need something?" The dinner, my promotion dinner, it's tonight." Silence. Then, "What dinner? Honey, you know we would have been there. Why didn't you tell us?" "I sent invitations 2 weeks ago, digital ones, to everyone." "Well, we didn't get anything. Tyler handles our email now. Helps us with all that technical stuff. Maybe check with him." The room spun slightly. I gripped the edge of the table. "Tyler handles your email. Has for months now. He's so helpful with technology. Hold on, your mother wants to talk." Her voice came on slightly slurred from wine. "Amity, why aren't you here celebrating your brother's success? He bought a jet ski. Can you believe it? Our Tyler making such adult purchases. He's finally becoming the man we knew he could be." "A jet ski?" The words tasted like ash. "That's the celebration." "Well, it represents so much more. Initiative, success. He's been working so hard on his investments. You could learn from his entrepreneurial spirit instead of just working for someone else your whole life." Each word was a perfectly placed knife. I thought about the promotion I'd earned, the position that would make me one of the youngest VPs in the industry. I thought about the mortgage payments that kept the roof over their heads, the roof under which Tyler played video games and apparently planned my humiliation. "I have to go," I said. "Don't be like that. You're not exactly a priority right now. We're celebrating Tyler. You understand. Family supports family." The line went dead. I stared at my phone, reading her last text again. "You're not exactly a priority right now." Never had been, apparently. The restaurant manager appeared at my elbow, professional sympathy etched on his features. "Ms. Amity, I need to inform you of something. We received a call this afternoon." My heart sank further, though I hadn't thought that was possible. A call. A woman identifying herself as your mother called to cancel the entire party reservation. "We tried calling you to confirm, but the person insisted you were in meetings and authorized the cancellation. We held the room anyway, just in case. I hope we made the right decision." The final piece clicked into place. Tyler hadn't just intercepted the invitations. He tried to ensure I wouldn't even have a venue to be humiliated in. The only thing that saved me from showing up to no reservation at all was the restaurant's professionalism. "You made the right decision," I whispered. "Thank you." I sat there for another 20 minutes, watching the candles burn down, the champagne grow warm. The waitstaff had stopped pretending not to stare. 20 empty places, 19 no-shows, and one fool who'd believed family meant something. My phone buzzed with notifications. More pictures from Madison's stories. Tyler giving a speech, my parents beaming beside him. Aunt Patricia commenting about certain family members who think success means forgetting where you came from. The irony was suffocating. They were celebrating a jet ski purchased with money that existed only because I kept their house from foreclosure. Every laugh, every toast was subsidized by my sacrifice. Madison's Instagram stories unfolded like a documentary of betrayal. Each update twisted the knife a little deeper, perfectly curated to showcase what a real family celebration looked like. The one I wasn't invited to. The steakhouse was packed, but they'd managed to get the large corner booth, the one usually reserved for special occasions. 23 people crammed around tables, pushed together the same number I'd planned for -1. Tyler stood at the head of the table, wearing a new suit that probably cost more than the mortgage payment I'd made last month. He held court like a king returning from conquest, that same easy smile that had charmed teachers into deadline extensions, now charming our family into collective amnesia about his failures. 2 years ago, he began in Madison's video, his voice carrying that false modesty I'd heard so many times. I made a decision to take a risk, to step away from the traditional path and forge my own way. The traditional path, like having a job, like contributing to society, like not being a parasite living in your parents' basement while your sister hemorrhaged money to keep you housed. People doubted me. He continued, pausing for effect. Some even said I was wasting my potential, but I knew that real success isn't about punching someone else's clock. It's about creating your own destiny. My Aunt Brenda wiped away a tear, an actual tear, for a jet ski purchase. And today, I'm proud to announce that my investments have allowed me to make my first major asset purchase. The jet ski is just the beginning. By this time next year, I plan to have my own home, my own business, and hopefully, he winked at someone off camera, a family of my own to share it with. The crowd erupted in applause. My mother stood raising her glass of wine, her third by the look of her flushed cheeks. To my son, who proves every day that success comes in many forms, who shows us that the unconventional path can lead to extraordinary places. To Tyler, the chorus came back. I scrolled to the comments. Friends and distant relatives who hadn't made the dinner added their congratulations. So inspiring. Your parents must be so proud. This is what happens when you believe in yourself. Then came the knife twist I'd been waiting for. Aunt Patricia, my mother's sister, who'd always competed with her over whose children were more successful, added her poison. So wonderful to see the whole family together, supporting real achievement. Some people forget that family comes first once they get a fancy job title, but not our Tyler. He keeps his priorities straight. Madison hearted the comment. So did my mother. The next story showed the food arriving. Porterhouse steaks, lobster tails, bottles of wine that cost more than Tyler had earned in his entire life. My father, who complained about the price of groceries, laughed as he ordered another round of appetizers. Tyler's treating tonight, someone announced, and another cheer went up. Tyler treating. With what money? The cryptocurrency gains. He'd never shown proof of the investment returns that somehow never appeared on any statement. Or was this another expense that would mysteriously find its way to my parents' credit cards, the ones I'd been helping them pay down? A new video. My grandmother, 83 and sharp as ever, stood with difficulty leaning on her cane. When Tyler was little, she began, her voice wavering with age and emotion. I knew he was special. He had that spark, that refusal to follow the crowd. Today proves I was right. He's shown us all that patience and vision triumph over conformity. Conformity. Is that what my education was? My career? My responsibility? Unlike some people, she continued, and my heart stopped. She wouldn't. Tyler understands that success means nothing without family to share it with. He's never too busy for Sunday dinner, never too important to help his parents with their computer or fix his aunt's car. That's true success. The pointed nature of her comments wasn't lost on anyone. Heads nodded around the table. My cousin James, who I'd helped get his job 2 years ago, avoided looking directly at the camera. Tyler stepped back into frame, humility personified. Grammy's too kind. I just believe in being present for the people who matter. Money comes and goes, but family is forever. Oh, here. My Uncle Robert raised his beer, not like some people who get a promotion and suddenly forget where they came from. The laughter that followed was ugly, tinged with the satisfaction of people who'd found someone to look down on. Me, the one who'd spent every holiday working to keep their gathering place from being foreclosed on. Madison's final story of the sequence showed dessert arriving, an enormous cake shaped like a jet ski. Congrats, Tyler. Written in blue frosting. Professional, custom-ordered, expensive. Speech, the crowd chanted. Tyler stood again, and this time his expression grew serious. I want to address something. I know there's been talk about family members who couldn't be here tonight, who chose other priorities. He paused, letting the implication sink in. But I don't hold grudges. Success is my revenge. And when certain people realize what they've missed out on, what they've chosen career over, I'll still be here. Because that's what family does. The applause was deafening. My mother wiped her eyes. My father clapped him on the back. The brother who'd stolen my dinner, who'd deliberately sabotaged my celebration, who'd been living off my secret support for 3 years, was being lauded for his magnanimity. I set my phone face down on the pristine white tablecloth, unable to watch anymore. Around me, 20 empty place settings gleamed in the candlelight, each one a monument to my naivety. The waiter appeared again, hovering uncertainly. Ms. Amity, the kitchen is asking about the main course. I looked at the untouched champagne, the wilting flowers, the perfect room designed to celebrate an achievement that apparently meant nothing because it came with a W-2 instead of a jet ski. Cancel the mains, I said quietly. Just bring the check. Of course. And the champagne. I looked at the bottles, expensive French vintage I'd specially ordered. Leave it. Maybe someone who matters will want to celebrate something real someday. The words came out more bitter than I'd intended, but I was past caring. I was past a lot of things. As I waited for the bill, one final notification lit up my phone. Tyler had posted to his own profile a photo of him on his new jet ski from earlier that day. The caption, "Success isn't about titles or corner offices, it's about freedom. It's about choosing your own path. It's about knowing who really supports you. Blessed to have a family that understands that." The hashtags were the final insult. Self-made. With my money keeping his roof intact, family first, after ensuring I'd spend the biggest night of my career alone. I thought about commenting, thought about exposing it all right there, breaking the family code of silence. Instead, I blocked him, then my mother, then my father. One by one, I severed the digital ties to the people who'd severed the emotional ones long ago. The waiter returned with the check, sliding the leather folder across the table like he was handing me a live grenade. I didn't need to open it to know it would hurt. But I was done hurting for people who didn't hurt for me. The leather folder sat on the table like a judge's verdict. I opened it slowly, already, knowing the damage, but needing to see the number anyway. $1,980. The itemized list read like a poem of abandonment. 20 champagne flutes poured but untouched, appetizers artfully plated and growing cold, the room rental fee for a celebration that never happened, service charge for staff who'd spent 3 hours pretending not to pity me. My hand trembled as I reached for my wallet, not from the amount though it stung. I'd paid more than this every month for 3 years without recognition. No, what made my hand shake was the symbolism of it all. Even my attempt to celebrate myself had become another bill to pay alone. The credit card felt heavy between my fingers. The same card that had processed 36 mortgage payments. The same card that had bought Tyler's groceries when he claimed his investments were tied up. The same card that had paid for my mother's birthday dinner last month, the one where they'd spent 2 hours discussing Tyler's potential. "Take your time," the waiter said softly, recognizing the weight of the moment. But I'd taken enough time. 3 years of time. Time I'd never get back invested in people who saw me as an ATM with inconvenient feelings attached. I slid the card into the folder and handed it back. "No need to wrap the champagne. Donate it to your staff. They've earned it more than my intended guests." The transaction processed quickly. Too quickly for the death of a dream, but that's how endings often are. Anticlimactic. Mundane. A signature on a receipt that closed more than just a dinner tab. Walking through the restaurant's main dining room felt like a gauntlet. Happy families laughed over their meals. Couples toasted anniversaries. Business partners celebrated deals. Every table a reflection of what mine should have been. The valet brought my car around a modest Honda Civic that I'd bought used and practical. Tyler had mocked it, of course. "Why drive something so boring when you make good money?" he'd asked, sitting in his BMW that my parents had co-signed for the one that got repossessed 6 months later. The drive home took me past Morton's Steakhouse. I told myself I wouldn't look, wouldn't torture myself further, but masochism has its own gravity, and I found myself pulling into the far end of the parking lot. There they were, my family's cars clustered together like an automotive family reunion. My father's truck with the dented bumper, my mother's sedan with the teacher parking sticker, Aunt Patricia's Lexus that she leased but claimed to own, Uncle Robert's motorcycle that he was too old to ride safely. And they're parked illegally in a handicapped space with casual arrogance, Tyler's latest ride. A black Challenger that I knew he couldn't afford, probably financed, at a criminal interest rate that would eventually become my parents' problem. A jet ski owner's chariot. Through the steakhouse windows, I could see movement. Shadows of my family living their best lives on what they thought was Tyler's dime. The celebration continued without me, had never needed me except for what I could provide. I sat there for 10 minutes, engine running, watching the show. Part of me wanted to walk in, to create a scene, to stand on a table and announce exactly who'd been paying for their ability to eat at restaurants instead of food banks. But that would make me the villain, the bitter sister who couldn't let her brother have his moment, the jealous one who made everything about money. I could already hear my mother's voice. If you helped family freely, you wouldn't feel the need to throw it in our faces. A text lit up my phone. Catherine, my assistant. How's the celebration going? Hope everyone showed up. I stared at her innocent words, trying to formulate a response that wouldn't sound pathetic. Finally settled on, it was memorable. Not a lie, I'd remember this night for the rest of my life. The drive home continued past familiar landmarks that suddenly felt foreign. The coffee shop where my mother and I used to have monthly breakfast dates before I got too busy with work. The park where Tyler and I had played as children before he learned that manipulation paid better than merit. My apartment building rose before me, 15 stories of young professionals who'd chosen career over whatever held them back. I'd been so proud when I signed the lease. My own place, my own life. My father had helped me move in, complaining the whole time about the rent prices. Highway robbery. He'd muttered, not knowing I'd prevent actual robbery of their home within the year. Inside my apartment, the silence felt different tonight. Usually it was peaceful. Tonight it accused. All those Friday nights spent here working instead of at family dinners. All those Sunday mornings with spreadsheets instead of relatives. For what? To pay for their lives while being excluded from them. I kicked off my heels, the expensive ones I'd bought specifically for tonight, and padded to my home office, the room where I'd spent countless hours earning the money that kept my family afloat while they celebrated the anchor dragging them down. My laptop sat open on the desk, financial spreadsheet still glowing. Always the numbers, always the responsibility. I navigated to my banking app with practiced ease, pulling up the automatic payment I'd set up 3 years ago. $2,650, scheduled to process Monday. The cancel button had never looked so appealing. But they'd lose the house. My parents, for all their faults, would be homeless. The guilt would eat me alive. Tyler would somehow spin it as proof of my selfishness. She'd rather see her parents on the street than share her precious wealth. I closed the laptop and walked to my kitchen, pouring a glass of the good wine I'd been saving for tonight, for after the toasts, for when I'd come home glowing with family pride and professional achievement. Instead, I stood alone at my window, looking out at the city lights and the restaurant where they still celebrated. My phone buzzed with more social media updates. I didn't look. I already knew the story they were telling. The successful son and the absent daughter. The family that stuck together and the one who thought she was too good for them. My reflection in the window showed a woman in an expensive dress with no one to appreciate it. A VP with no one to share the victory. A daughter who paid the bills but wasn't worth a dinner invitation. I raised my glass to my reflection. "Congratulations, Amity," I whispered. "You've successfully funded your own erasure." The wine tasted like defeat and revelation combined, because in that moment, standing in my empty apartment with a receipt for $1,900 worth of rejection, I finally understood. They hadn't forgotten me. They'd chosen to forget me. There's a difference, and it tastes like champagne no one will drink and mortgage payments no one will acknowledge. Tyler's words from the video echoed in my mind. Success is my revenge. Maybe it was time I learned what those words really meant. The apartment felt different when I returned from tossing the restaurant receipt in the kitchen trash. Something subtle like furniture moved just slightly or air disturbed by an unfamiliar presence. 28 years of life had taught me to trust my instincts, and right now they screamed that someone had been here. My spare key usually lived under the fake rock by my door, a habit from college I'd never broken. The rock was there, but positioned wrong, turned a quarter rotation from where I always placed it. Someone had used it and tried to put everything back. Almost. The living room appeared normal at first glance. Throw pillows and place magazines aligned on the coffee table, but the remote sat on the left side of the couch instead of the right. The curtain was pulled back an extra inch. details only I would notice, breadcrumbs of invasion. My heartbeat quickened as I moved toward my home office, the most likely target. The door stood slightly ajar. I distinctly remembered closing it that morning, a habit born from working from home during lockdowns. Now it gaped like a wound. Inside, the evidence was clearer. File drawers not quite closed, papers shuffled in my inbox. My financial planning binder moved from the second shelf to the third. Someone had been looking for something specific. Someone who knew where I kept important documents, but didn't know my exact organizational system. The mortgage payment folder was the smoking gun. I kept meticulous records, every payment printed and filed chronologically. The folder now sat askew, papers hastily reshuffled. Several receipts bore smudges that hadn't been there before, as if photographed with a phone held at an angle. Anger rose in my throat like bile. Tyler. It had to be Tyler. Who else knew about the spare key? Who else would care about these particular documents? I powered on my computer, checking the access logs. There it was. A login attempt at 2:47 p.m. while I was in my final meeting before the dinner. Failed password attempt. Another at 2:51. He'd given up after 2 tries, smart enough not to trigger a lockout. But the physical files had been enough for whatever he needed. I sank into my desk chair, mind racing through implications. What could he want with proof of my payments? Why photograph them? The answer came with sickening clarity. Evidence. He was building some kind of case, though, for what I couldn't fathom. The familiar weight of the calculation settled on my shoulders again. 3 years at $26.50 monthly, $95,400. Not a fortune by some standards. But for someone my age, living in the city, trying to build a life, it was everything extra I had, and then some. I'd run the numbers so many times they'd burned themselves into my brain. Without those payments, I could have bought my own condo by now, could have traveled, could have started the MBA program I'd been eyeing instead of taking on extra consulting work that left me exhausted and isolated. But family came first. That's what they'd always taught me. Family came first, even when family put you last. My phone buzzed, an unknown number with a local area code. Is this Amity? The voice was young male, nervous. Who's asking? My name's Marcus. I work at Kingston Electronics. Your brother was just in here trying to finance a new gaming setup, like the works. 80-inch OLED new PlayStation surround sound. The whole thing would run about $8,000. My grip on the phone tightened, and he listed you as a reference, said you'd vouch for his employment at your company. I'm calling to verify. The audacity stole my breath for a moment. Tyler doesn't work for my company. He doesn't work anywhere. Silence on the other end. Then, ma'am, he seemed really confident. Even showed some financial documents suggesting he had significant assets. Bank statements showing regular deposits. The photographed mortgage payments. He was using my payments to our parents as proof of his own income. Oh, those aren't his deposits, I said carefully, and I'd appreciate if you didn't extend him any credit based on fraudulent information. Understood. Thank you for your honesty. We see this kind of thing more than you'd think. After hanging up, I sat in the gathering darkness of my office pieces, clicking together like a horrifying puzzle. Tyler hadn't just stolen my celebration. He was building an entire fictional success story using my real sacrifices as props. The scope of his deception hit me in waves. The family believing he was some investment genius. The dinners he treated to that somehow always ended up on my parents' cards. The promises of future success that kept everyone believing while I paid for their ability to believe it. I pulled out my laptop again, this time navigating to my cloud storage where I kept backups of everything. Time to create my own evidence file. Screenshots of every payment, bank statements showing the withdrawals, the original foreclosure notice I'd photographed that night 6 months ago. As I compiled my proof, another document caught my eye, an email I'd saved from 8 months ago, forwarded by Derek, who'd thought I should see it. A job offer for Tyler from a marketing firm. 45,000 starting salary, benefits, room for growth. Everything a 26-year-old living at home could want. Except Tyler had turned it down. The reason, according to Derek, who'd recommended him, was that it would interfere with his investment schedule and he couldn't commit to regular hours. I dismissed it at the time as Tyler being Tyler. Now I saw it differently. Why work for 45,000 when your sister was providing nearly that much in free family housing? Why earn when you could leech? The final straw was a text that arrived while I organized my files. From my mother, Tyler showed us wonderful news about his business projections. So proud of my entrepreneur son. Maybe you could learn from his success instead of always judging. Family supports family. Family supports family, the phrase that had enslaved me for 3 years, the motto that apparently only applied to my wallet, not my achievements. I stood up, decision crystallizing like ice in my veins, walked to my desk drawer where I kept nice stationery, the kind with my name embossed at the top, professional, undeniable. The note wrote itself. Dear Mom and Dad, effective immediately, I am terminating the automatic mortgage payments I have been making on your behalf for the past 3 years. This amounts to $95 out of $400 in total support. I suggest you discuss with Tyler how his successful investments might cover future payments. Let him pay it. Amity. Brief, factual, devastating. I printed it on the good paper, folded it precisely, and slipped it into a matching envelope. No accusations about the dinner, no mention of the stolen celebration or the lies, just the facts that would shatter their carefully constructed delusion. The drive to their house at 11 p.m. was surreal. Streets I'd traveled my whole life looked different when you were driving to end something instead of maintain it. Every familiar landmark was a memory tainted by the night's revelations. Their house sat quietly, porch light off Tyler's Challenger in the driveway, like a monument to deception. I parked down the street, not wanting to wake anyone. This message was better delivered in silence, discovered in daylight, when the full weight would hit. The walk up their driveway felt like crossing a bridge I'd burned behind me. The door where I'd entered freely for 28 years would soon be closed to me, I knew. You didn't shatter the family mythology and remain welcome at Sunday dinner. I taped the note at eye level, impossible to miss. The tape made a sound like tearing fabric in the quiet night, appropriate for what I was tearing. As I turned to leave, a light flickered on in Tyler's basement window. For a moment, I thought I saw his silhouette watching. Let him watch. Let him see what his greed had finally cost him. The drive home was lighter each mile, lifting weight from shoulders I hadn't realized were so burdened. My phone stayed silent, but I knew that would change come morning. The storm was coming, but for tonight, I had the peace that comes from finally choosing yourself. Back in my apartment, I made one more stop at my laptop. The automatic payment scheduled for Monday gleamed on the screen, waiting for final confirmation to cancel. I clicked it without hesitation. Payment canceled. Your changes have been saved. The most expensive words I'd ever written, and the most valuable. Consciousness returned slowly, like swimming up from deep water. The morning light seemed too bright, too harsh for a Saturday that should have been peaceful. Then my phone erupted. Not buzzed, not rang, erupted. 82 missed calls. The numbers seemed impossible until I started scrolling through the log. Mom 23 calls, Dad 19, Tyler 15, various aunts, uncles, cousins making up the difference. The voicemails had maxed out at 40, my phone refusing to accept more digital screaming. The first text preview visible on my lock screen set the tone. What have you done? I made coffee before listening to any of it. If I was going to face the hurricane, I'd do it caffeinated. The ritual of grinding beans and measuring water provided a few more minutes of calm before the storm. Voicemail 1. Mom, 6:43 a.m. Amity, there's some mistake. The bank called. Something about a missed payment call immediately. Voicemail 2, Mom 6:51 a.m. We found your note. This isn't funny. Fix this now. Voicemail 3, Dad 7:05 a.m. Your mother is hysterical. The bank says we're in default. Whatever point you're trying to make, you've made it. Now fix it. By voicemail 10, the tone had shifted from confusion to rage. Mom's voice shrill with panic. How could you do this to us? We're your parents. After everything we've done for you. By voicemail, 20 threats entered the mix. Tyler's voice no longer smooth. You think you're smart? I'll ruin you. I know people at your company. This isn't over. Voicemail 30 brought Aunt Patricia into the mix. I always knew you were selfish, but this, letting your parents lose their home, you're no longer welcome in this family. The text messages were worse. Screenshots of the foreclosure notice, photos of my mother crying, long paragraphs about betrayal and ingratitude. Tyler had created a family group chat specifically to coordinate the assault on my phone. She's lost her mind, one cousin wrote. Money changed her, added another. I can't believe we shared DNA from an uncle I'd helped move just last year. At 8:30, the doorbell rang, my doorman calling up. Ms. Amity, your mother is here. She seems agitated. Should I send her up? No, Carl, I'm not accepting visitors today. Understood. I'll handle it. Carl had seen enough family drama in this building to know when to stand firm. I added a mental note to increase his Christmas bonus. My phone rang again, this time a neighbor from my parents' street, Mrs. Chen, who'd watched me grow up. Amity, dear, I'm concerned. Your parents are in their driveway, quite upset. Your mother is telling anyone who'll listen that you've stolen their home. What's happening? I haven't stolen anything, Mrs. Chen. I've simply stopped giving them money they never acknowledged receiving. Oh, a pause. Oh my, you've been paying their mortgage for how long? 3 years. A longer pause. And they're upset you've stopped. That doesn't seem... Well, I'll let you go, dear, but good for you. One unexpected ally in a sea of hostility. The 9th voicemail from my father finally contained the revelation I'd been waiting for. The bank says we're 4 months behind. They're starting foreclosure proceedings. How are we 4 months behind? We thought... Tyler said he was handling it since I'd been handling it secretly while Tyler took credit for non-existent contributions. A new caller interrupted the playback. The number looked familiar but wasn't saved. I answered cautiously. Amity, it's Janet. Janet Morrison, your mentor? My stomach clenched. Had Tyler really followed through on his threat to contact my company? I'm sorry to bother you on a Saturday, she continued, but I received a concerning email about you. Several, actually, from someone claiming to be your brother. Janet, I'm so sorry. There's a family situation. No need to explain. I've seen enough executive family drama to recognize a smear campaign. Charles Morrison received the same emails. We're not concerned about your position, but we are concerned about you. Do you need legal assistance? We have excellent lawyers on retainer. Relief flooded through me. Thank you. I might take you up on that. Please do. And Amity, anyone who tries to sabotage their own sister's career over money is showing you exactly who they are. Believe them. After we hung up, I returned to the voicemails, skipping to the most recent ones. The tone had shifted again. Now came the bargaining. Mom, sweetheart, we can work this out. Just come home and we'll talk. We didn't know you were struggling financially. We can help you budget better. The irony of my parents offering to help me budget while I'd been paying their largest expense almost made me laugh. Almost. Dad, your brother may have made some mistakes, but this isn't the answer. Family forgives family. Tyler, look, I get it. You're upset about the dinner thing. I'll make it up to you. Just fix this before it's too late. Too late. As if 3 years wasn't already too late. as if watching them celebrate him with my money wasn't too late, as if sitting alone at a restaurant while they toasted his jet ski wasn't too late. A new text from an unknown number. This is Tyler's girlfriend, Stephanie. He's devastated. How could you hurt him like this? He was counting on that inheritance. She'd caught herself, but not fast enough. Inheritance. Tyler had been telling people he had an inheritance coming. From where? From parents who were in foreclosure. Unless? I called Derek. He answered on the second ring. Amity, I heard. Tyler's been calling everyone saying you've lost it. What's really going on? Derek, has Tyler mentioned anything about an inheritance or maybe insurance? A pause. Now that you mention it, yeah. A few months ago, he was drunk and said something about how his ship would come in when... Oh, God. He said when the house situation resolved itself. I thought he meant when your parents downsized. What else did he say? He mentioned something about mortgage insurance, that your parents had some policy that would pay off the house if they defaulted. But that can't be right. But it could be. If Tyler had discovered such a policy, if he'd been planning this, counting on me to keep paying while he waited for them to default. Derek, I have to go, but thank you. I hung up and immediately searched for information about mortgage insurance policies. Sure enough, some older policies, especially those written during the housing boom, had clauses that could be interpreted as covering certain types of default. Had Tyler been playing a longer game than any of us realized? Had he been counting on my sense of responsibility while positioning himself to benefit from an eventual default? My phone rang again. The caller ID made my blood run cold. Sunrise Mortgage Company. Ms. Amity. This is Michael from Sunrise Mortgage. I'm calling about your parents' account. We show here that you've been making payments as an authorized third party. That's correct, but I've terminated that arrangement. I see. I'm calling because there's been some unusual activity. Someone attempted to access the account online this morning, trying to make changes to the insurance beneficiaries. Given the default status, such changes are locked, but I thought you should know. Tyler, still scheming even as the house crumbled around his plans. Thank you for letting me know. Can you tell me who attempted the changes? The login came from the primary account holder's credentials, but the changes attempted were unusual, adding a non-family member as a beneficiary on the insurance policy. Stephanie, he was trying to add his girlfriend to profit from his parents' loss. I appreciate the call. My parents should probably change their passwords. We've already locked the online access pending verification. Ms. Amity, off the record. You did the right thing stopping those payments. I've seen too many families enable financial abuse. Take care of yourself. Even strangers could see what my family refused to acknowledge. The doorbell rang again. Carl's voice through the intercom. Ms. Amity, I'm sorry to bother you, but there's now quite a group in the lobby. Your mother, father, and several others. They're creating a disturbance. I may need to call the police. Do what you need to do, Carl. I'm not coming down. Understood. And Ms. Amity, the nice lady brought coffee and donuts for the staff. I think she's trying to bribe us. My mother's signature move. She'd bribed my elementary school secretary with cookies to get me out of detention once. Some strategies never evolved. As I contemplated my next move, one final voicemail notification appeared. This one from a number I recognized with dread. Grandmother. Her voice was calm, which made it worse. Amity, I'm 93 years old. I've seen every kind of family drama imaginable, but this destroying your parents to spite your brother, this is beneath even my lowest expectations of you. You've made your choice. Now, live with it. Alone. The family matriarch had spoken. Banishment confirmed. But as I sat in my quiet apartment, surrounded by the evidence of my real life, my real achievement, my real worth beyond what I could provide, I realized something. Living with my choices sounded pretty good, actually, better than dying by 1,000 cuts of their making. My phone buzzed one more time, a text from an unknown number, but the message made it clear who'd sent it. Building security footage from yesterday afternoon. Thought you might want this for your records. Carl. Attached was a video file. Tyler, clear as day, entering my building at 2:35 p.m., his hand reaching under my fake rock at 2:37, him leaving at 3:22, my spare key still in his hand. Evidence. Beautiful, undeniable evidence. The morning explosion was far from over, but now I had ammunition of my own. The summons came through Aunt Patricia, the family's self-appointed mediator and drama coordinator. Her text was formal, as if addressing a corporate board rather than her niece. Emergency family meeting. Today, 2 p.m., your grandmother's house. Your attendance is mandatory. We will resolve this as a family. Mandatory, as if I were still a child who could be ordered to appear, as if they had any authority over me beyond what I'd given them through misplaced loyalty. I arrived at 1:58, pulling up to my grandmother's Victorian house with its wraparound porch and judgment-soaked walls. 20 cars lined the street, a family fleet assembled for my trial. They'd even invited cousins from out of state. This wasn't a meeting, it was a tribunal. Uncle Robert stood on the porch, arms crossed, playing bouncer. "Wasn't sure you'd show," he said, not moving from the door. "Wouldn't miss it," I replied, matching his energy. "I love family theater." He stepped aside reluctantly, and I entered the house that smelled of my childhood. Lemon furniture, polish, my grandmother's perfume, and disappointment. The living room had been arranged like a courtroom. Chairs in rows, facing a single seat in the center. My seat, presumably, the hot seat, the accused's chair. Grandmother sat in her wingback throne, presiding over it all with the stern face that had terrified grandchildren for generations. Tyler stood by the fireplace, phone in hand, already recording. He dressed for the occasion in his new suit, playing the part of the wounded party. Stephanie clung to his arm, her presence a clear message that she was family now. I wasn't. "Sit," grandmother commanded, pointing to the center chair. I remained standing. "I'll stand, thanks. This won't take long." "You'll sit," my mother hissed from her position near grandmother, "and you'll listen to what you've done to this family." "What I've done?" The laugh escaped before I could stop it. "That's rich." "See?" Tyler addressed the room, his voice pitched for maximum sympathy. No remorse. No acknowledgement of the damage. She's been planning this, waiting for the moment to hurt us most. He held up his phone, showing screenshots I couldn't read from my distance. I have proof of her deception. 3 years of secret payments hiding behind anonymous transactions, letting me take the blame for not contributing enough. The room murmured, shooting glances my way. He'd spun it perfectly. My help had become deception. My silence had become malice. "Show them the rest," I said calmly. "Show them the screenshots of you in my apartment yesterday, of you stealing my key, of you photographing my financial documents." His face didn't change, but Stephanie's grip on his arm tightened. "I don't know what you're talking about. You're deflecting." I pulled out my phone, connecting it to my grandmother's smart TV with practiced ease. The security footage filled the screen, Tyler clearly visible entering my building. That could be anyone," he stammered. The video continued. Tyler at my door, Tyler finding the key, Tyler entering my apartment, timestamp clear, date unmistakable. "Turn that off," my mother demanded. "This isn't about what Tyler may or may not have done. This is about you abandoning your family." "No," I said, advancing the video. "This is about Tyler stealing from me, lying to you, manipulating everyone in this room while I paid your bills in silence." Cousin Madison shifted in her seat. "Wait, you've really been paying their mortgage for 3 years?" "Every month. $95,400 total." "She wants credit for doing her duty," grandmother interjected. "Children support parents. It's natural law." "Then where's Tyler's support?" I asked. "Where's his contribution? Show me one bill he's paid, one expense he's covered, one anything besides promises and jet skis." "I've been building capital," Tyler said, his smooth voice returning. "Investment takes time." Amity wouldn't understand that working her little job following orders like a good employee. My little job, the calm I'd maintained cracked slightly. My little job that paid your parents' mortgage. My little job that kept this family in their home while you played video games and told everyone I was too selfish to help. Enough. My father stood, his face red. Tyler made mistakes, but he's young. He's learning. You calculated this for maximum damage. You waited until we were vulnerable. Is vulnerable? I couldn't help it. I laughed again. You were celebrating, toasting his success, posting about family pride while I sat alone at my promotion dinner. The dinner Tyler made sure none of you attended. I told you, Tyler said quickly. I never saw any invitation. Your assistant must have made a mistake. Liar. The word came from an unexpected source. Madison, my younger cousin, holding up her phone. I kept thinking something was weird about that night, so I checked our spam folders. The invitation was there, moved to spam on the same day. All of our invitations, actually, same timestamp. She looked at Tyler with disgust. You logged into our emails and sabotaged her dinner. Why would you do that? The room's energy shifted, doubt creeping in where certainty had lived. Tyler's carefully crafted narrative showing cracks. She's making that up, Tyler said, but his voice had lost its conviction. Am I? Madison connected her phone to the TV, replacing my security footage with email headers. Look at the login history. Tyler's IP address. He accessed at least 5 family email accounts that day. Murmurs rippled through the room. Aunt Patricia looked stunned. Uncle Robert's crossed arms loosened. I was helping with technical issues, Tyler tried. You all asked me to check your emails. To help, Madison said, not to delete important messages and ruin Amity's celebration. My mother sank into her chair. Tyler, tell me you didn't. Tell me you didn't deliberately. She deserved it. The words exploded from him, mask finally slipping, acting so superior with her promotion, her success. Making me look bad by comparison. Someone needed to humble her. The room went silent. Even grandmother's stern expression wavered. Dee, so you made sure I'd be alone, I said quietly. Made sure the family would choose you over me. And it worked. You got your celebration, your toasts, your fake success story built on my real money. You could afford it, he spat. What's a few thousand a month to someone with your salary? But for me, that money could have been startup capital, investment opportunities. Instead, you hoarded it, made me look like a failure. You are a failure. The words came out before I could stop them. Not because you don't have money, but because you'd rather destroy someone else's success than build your own. How dare you? Stephanie finally spoke, her voice shrill. Tyler's been under so much pressure. You don't understand what it's like for him having a sister who makes everyone else look bad. Oh, I make him look bad. I turned to face her. Tell everyone about the inheritance, Stephanie. Tell them what Tyler promised you. Tell them about the mortgage insurance policy he's been waiting to cash in on. Her face went white. Tyler grabbed her arm, but she pulled away. What insurance policy? My father asked, looking between them. It's not. I was just. Tyler scrambled for words. He said when the house went into foreclosure, insurance would pay it off. Stephanie said, tears starting. Said we'd get a fresh start with the money, said Amity had been preventing it by making payments, but once she stopped, the room erupted. Everyone talking at once, voices raised, accusations flying. My parents stared at Tyler like they'd never seen him before. You wanted us to lose our home. My mother's voice was small, broken. Not lose it, Tyler said desperately. Just restructure. It's business. Amity understands. Tell them you understand. But I was done understanding, done explaining, done being the villain in their story or the savior in their silence. I understand perfectly, I said, gathering my purse. You're a parasite who'd sell out his parents for a payday, and they're enablers who'd rather lose their home than admit their golden child is made of fool's gold. Where are you going? Grandmother demanded. We're not finished. I said, heading for the door. 3 years, $95,000, zero acknowledgement. I'm finished being your ATM with inconvenient feelings. You want to save the house. Let Tyler's investments do it. I'm sure that jet ski will be very comfortable to live in. Amity, please, my mother called out. We can fix this. We can be a family again. I paused at the doorway, looking back at the room full of relatives who judged me guilty before I'd arrived, who'd believed Tyler's lies because they were easier than my truth. We were never a family, I said. We were a hierarchy, and I'm done being the foundation everyone stands on while complaining about the view. Outside, I could hear the argument continuing, voices raised, accusations flying, but it wasn't my problem anymore. Tyler's house of cards was collapsing, and I wouldn't be there to cushion the fall. My phone buzzed as I reached my car. A text from Derek. Heard Tyler got arrested at the electronics store. Fraud charges. Thought you should know. The universe, it seemed, had a sense of timing. As I drove away from my grandmother's house, from my family's judgment, from 3 years of thankless sacrifice, I felt something I hadn't expected. Free. The emergency family meeting had been everything they'd planned and nothing they'd expected. They'd sought to break me back into compliance. Instead, they'd broken their own illusions. And Tyler, well, Tyler was about to learn what actual consequences felt like. No sister to save him. No parents to enable him. No family to fool. Just him and the truth finally catching up. The presentation I'd prepared was simple. 3 years of bank statements organized chronologically, payment receipts highlighted in yellow, a running total in the margin showing the accumulated amount. $95,400 in black and white, undeniable as gravity. I spread the papers across my grandmother's coffee table like tarot cards revealing the future, or in this case, the past everyone had chosen to ignore. Every month, I said, my voice steady as a metronome, $2,650, January through December, holidays, birthdays, bonus seasons, never missed one. My mother reached for the papers with shaking hands. Her face cycled through emotions like a slot machine, disbelief, recognition, shame, and finally a kind of horrified understanding. These are all from your account. Every penny. Tyler tried to interrupt, his voice high with panic. Those could be doctored, photoshopped. You can fake anything these days. Madison, bless her, had already pulled up her banking app. I can verify them. Mom, you gave me access to check on Grandma's accounts. Remember? I can see the mortgage payment history. The room held its breath as she scrolled. They match. Every payment for the last 3 years came from an external account. The account number matches Amity's. But Tyler said, my father's voice trailed off as he stared at his son. You said you were helping with the bills. You showed us spreadsheets. I was managing the finances, Tyler said desperately, trying to salvage something. Organizing, planning, that's help too. You took credit for my money. I pulled out the next set of documents. Email printouts, look at the dates. Every time I made a payment, Tyler would send you updates about handling things or taking care of the mortgage situation. And Patricia read one aloud. Mom and Dad managed to resolve this month's payment. Don't worry about the details. Just know I've got it covered. Love, Tyler. That's not... I meant... Tyler's silver tongue finally failed him. And here... I continued pulling out my phone again, are the text messages where Tyler told various family members I was too selfish to help, that I thought I was too good for family obligations, that my promotion had gone to my head. I'd screenshot everything over the past months, building my case without knowing I'd need it. Insurance against gaslighting. Uncle Robert read his text aloud. Amity makes good money but won't lift a finger for Mom and Dad. Thank God I'm here to pick up the slack. I was protecting her, Tyler said weakly. She works so hard. I didn't want you all bothering her for money. Protecting me. The laugh that came out was sharp enough to cut. Like when you protected me from my own promotion dinner. Madison had been busy on her laptop. I found more, she announced. Tyler's been using mom and dad's credit cards too. Look at these purchases. She turned the screen toward the room. Gaming systems, restaurant bills that suit he's wearing. Thousands in charges while Amity paid the mortgage. Those were authorized, Tyler said quickly. Mom said I said you could buy groceries. Our mother interrupted, her voice hollow. Not this. She gestured at the screen showing a $3,000 purchase at an electronics store. Wait, Madison continued, her investigation gaining momentum. There's more. Tyler, you've been telling people you have a job, right? At that investment firm? Stephanie tried to pull Tyler toward the door, but he shook her off. I do consulting work. Really? Madison pulled up LinkedIn. Because according to this, you turned down a full-time offer from Henderson Marketing 8 months ago. They were family friends who gave you a shot, and you ghosted them after 2 days. My father's head snapped up. The Hendersons, but you told us they weren't a good fit culturally. I found something else, I said, playing the recording I'd made of my call with Derek. His voice filled the room. Tyler told me he's been too busy to hang out because of all the family drama. Said you've been really difficult lately, refusing to help your parents with their bills. The recording continued with Derek's revelation about Tyler claiming I was too selfish to help family. The room listened in stunned silence as their narrative unraveled thread by thread. There's one more thing, I said, pulling out the final document. Tyler's been accessing your online banking, hasn't he? Helping with passwords? My parents nodded slowly. Look at this. I showed them the mortgage company's email about attempted beneficiary changes. Someone tried to add a non-family member to your insurance policy this morning, during the default. All eyes turned to Stephanie, whose face had gone from white to red. He said it was already his, she whispered. Said you'd promised him the insurance money for his startup. What insurance money? My mother's voice rose. Tyler, what have you been telling people? The truth came out in pieces like pulling teeth. Tyler's grand plan revealed in stammering half-confessions and Stephanie's tearful admissions. He discovered the mortgage insurance clause months ago, realized that if the house went into foreclosure under specific circumstances, the policy would pay out, had been waiting, planning, positioning himself to benefit, while I kept the wolves at bay with my payments. You wanted us to lose our home. My father said the words heavy as stones. Your mother and I out on the street so you could cash in. It's not like that, Tyler pleaded. You'd have gotten a rental, something smaller, more manageable, and I'd have had capital for my business ideas. What business do I asked? Name one concrete business plan, one actual idea beyond investments and cryptocurrency and startup capital. Silence. Grandmother, who'd been uncharacteristically quiet, finally spoke. Tyler, look at me. He met her eyes reluctantly. Did you or did you not contribute any money to your parents' bills in the last 3 years? There were complications with my investments. Yes or no? No. And did you know Amity was paying? A longer pause. Not at first. But you figured it out. The amounts were too consistent, too precise. Mom and Dad couldn't have managed it alone. And instead of thanking your sister, instead of being grateful, you used her generosity to make yourself look good while making her look bad. It wasn't a question. Tyler's defense crumbled entirely. The golden child stood exposed as pyrite fool's gold that had fooled everyone, including himself. I still don't understand the job rejection, my mother said, voice small. $45,000 a year, Tyler, with benefits. Why would you turn that down? Tyler's laugh was bitter. $45,000 Amity makes 3 times that. Why should I settle for crumbs when she has the whole cake? Because it's honest work, I said. Because it's yours. Because building something real is better than stealing something fake. Easy for you to say, he shot back. You've always been perfect. Perfect grades, perfect job, perfect little life. Do you know what it's like living in that shadow? Do you know what it's like being the shadow? I countered. Invisible unless someone needs something, appreciated only for what I can provide. Erased from family celebrations because my success makes you uncomfortable? The room sat with that truth heavy and undeniable. I found one more thing, Madison said quietly. She'd been typing throughout the confrontation our family's unexpected detective. Tyler, you've been taking money from Grandma too, haven't you? Grandmother's sharp intake of breath was answer enough. How much, I asked. 15,000 over the last year, Madison read from her screen. Transfers labeled as investments that went straight to personal purchases. The family explosion was complete. 3 years of deception unraveling in 30 minutes. Tyler's house of cards hadn't just fallen, it had been incinerated. Get out, my father said quietly. Tyler, get out of this house. Dad, please. Get out. The roar from my mild-mannered father shocked everyone. You stole from your grandmother. You tried to steal our home. You destroyed your sister's reputation while she saved us. Get out, and don't come back until you can show us you've earned an honest dollar. Tyler looked around the room for support, finding none. Even Stephanie had stepped away, the reality of who she'd attached herself to finally sinking in. He left without another word, the golden child tarnished beyond recognition. Amity, my mother began, tears streaming. I don't know how to... We didn't know. We should have known, but we didn't. You didn't want to know, I corrected gently. It was easier to believe his story, the successful son and the selfish daughter. It fit better than the truth. Can you forgive us? My father asked. I looked around the room at family members who'd been so ready to condemn me an hour ago, who'd believed the worst without asking for proof, who'd taken my support for granted while praising my brother's deception. Forgiveness isn't the issue, I said finally. Trust is. You broke mine, all of you. That's not something an apology fixes. What can we do? Aunt Patricia asked her earlier. Righteousness replaced by shame. Start by seeing who Tyler really is. Stop enabling him. Stop making excuses. Stop choosing comfortable lies over uncomfortable truths. I gathered my documents, my proof of 3 years of silent sacrifice. And maybe start seeing who I really am too. Not your ATM, not your safety net, not the villain in Tyler's story. Just me. As I headed for the door one final time, grandmother called out, Amity. I turned. The house, she said, her voice showing her 93 years. Will you? I won't let you be homeless, I said. But I won't enable any more either. We'll figure out something fair, something that doesn't require me to bleed in silence while others take credit for my blood. I left them there, sitting with truth that was 3 years overdue. The family meeting had revealed everything and resolved nothing. But at least now, everyone knew the real story. Tyler's future was uncertain. My family's dynamics were shattered. My relationships with them might never recover. But the truth was finally gloriously uncomfortably free. The doorbell rang at 4:17 p.m., just as I was processing the emotional wreckage of the family meeting. Through the peephole, I saw Stephanie mascara-streaked designer handbag clutched like armor. I almost didn't open it. Almost. But something in her posture, the defeat in it, made me turn the lock. I'm pregnant, she said without preamble. 12 weeks. And I just found out the man I thought I knew doesn't exist. The hallway suddenly felt too public for this conversation. Against my better judgment, I stepped aside. Come in. She perched on my couch like she might contaminate it, or it might contaminate her. Everything about her screamed suburban princess meets reality check. Tyler said you were jealous of him, she began, voice wavering. Said you couldn't stand that he was successful without selling his soul to corporate America. I believed him. God, I believed everything. When did you meet? I asked, though I suspected the answer. 10 months ago. He was at this investment seminar talking about cryptocurrency and market futures like he owned them. Drove a nice car, wore expensive clothes, took me to restaurants I'd only dreamed about. All funded by my parents' credit cards while I paid their mortgage. The irony wasn't lost on either of us. He said he was closing a major deal, she continued, that soon we'd have enough to buy a house outright, cash, no mortgage needed because he'd learned from his parents' mistakes. What else did he tell you? The floodgates opened. Tyler had painted himself as a self-made success story held back only by a jealous sister who resented his unconventional path. He'd claimed he was supporting our parents while I hoarded wealth. Said he'd revolutionized investing strategies but couldn't share details because of proprietary methods. He showed me bank statements, Stephanie said, pulling out her phone. Look. The statements were mine photographed during his break-in but edited. My name replaced with his amounts, inflated dates changed. Amateur hour with Photoshop, but convincing enough for someone who wanted to believe. When I told him about the baby, he said it was perfect timing. Said the house insurance would set us up for life. I thought he meant his house, that he owned property I didn't know about. He meant our parents' house, the one I've been saving from foreclosure. Her face crumpled. I know that now. God, what have I done? What am I going to do? Before I could respond, my phone exploded with notifications. The family group chat Tyler had created was melting down in real time. Mom, the police are here. Tyler's been arrested. Aunt Patricia, what charges? Dad, fraud. The electronics store pressed charges, and there's more. Madison, I'm at Grandma's. She's pressing charges too. Says it's the only way he'll learn. Uncle Robert, this is insane. Our own family calling the cops. Grandmother, I've enabled him long enough. Prison might teach what we failed to. Stephanie read over my shoulder, her face growing paler with each message. Prison. But the baby. That's not my problem, I said, though not unkindly. You chose him. These are the consequences. My phone rang. Mom. Amity, please. The bail is set at $50,000. We don't have it. The house is already... Please. You want me to bail out the man who tried to destroy my reputation, who stole from me, who wanted you homeless for profit? He's your brother. No, he's your son. You deal with it. I hung up. Harsh, maybe. Necessary, absolutely. Stephanie stood to leave, then paused. There's something else. Tyler has loans, private ones, from some very unforgiving people. He said once the insurance money came through. How much? 30,000, maybe more. He kept saying next week, next month after the house situation resolved. Loan sharks, of course. Tyler's fantasy empire built on my money, our parents' credit, grandmother's savings, and apparently dangerous debt. You should leave town, I told her. Stay with family. Get away from whatever Tyler's gotten into. She nodded, heading for the door, then turned back. The promotion dinner. He laughed about it. Said the look on your face would be priceless when you realized no one was coming. I'm sorry. I should have said something. After she left, I called Janet Morrison. I might need that lawyer sooner than expected. The next few hours blurred together. Legal consultations, police statements, discovering the depth of Tyler's deceptions through forensic accounting. He hadn't just stolen, he'd created an entire fraudulent identity complete with fake business registrations and forged documents. Around 8 p.m., Uncle Robert called. Your parents are at the police station. Your mom is hysterical. Don't you have any compassion? I had 3 years' worth. It ran out last night. This is destroying the family. No, Tyler destroyed the family. I just stopped enabling the destruction. So you'll let him rot in jail? Yes. The simplicity of it seemed to shock him. Good. Maybe shock was what this family needed. Madison texted privately. Found something else. Tyler owes money to half the family. Small amounts, but it adds up. Everyone was too embarrassed to mention it. How much total? About 25,000. Aunt Patricia lent him 10 grand for a sure-thing investment. Uncle Robert gave him 5 for a business partnership that never materialized. The web kept expanding. Tyler hadn't just betrayed me or our parents. He'd made victims of everyone leveraging family trust into personal gain. My doorbell rang again. This time it was my father. He looked like he'd aged a decade since the morning, still in his good shirt from the family meeting, now wrinkled and stained with coffee or tears or both. "Can I come in?" I let him in, but didn't offer comfort. We sat across from each other, 28 years of father-daughter relationship reduced to the space between two chairs. "Your mother won't stop crying," he said. "Keep saying we failed both of you, that we created this by playing favorites." "Did you play favorites?" He was quiet for so long I thought he wouldn't answer. Then Tyler was easier. Always smiling, always charming. You were so serious, so driven. It was like you didn't need us. I needed you to see me, to value what I offered beyond money. We saw you. We just didn't appreciate what we saw. Tyler made us feel successful by association. His dreams were so big, so exciting. Your reality was, boring? Stable, predictable. We're teachers, Amity. We live paycheck to paycheck. Tyler's talk of investments and millions, it was intoxicating. We wanted to believe. So you did, despite evidence, despite logic, despite me. He nodded, defeated. "The house. We're gonna lose it, aren't we?" "Probably." Could you?" "No." He stood to leave, then stopped. The mortgage company called. Said someone had been making inquiries about assuming the loan. "Was that you?" I said nothing. Let him wonder. Let them all wonder if I'd save them again. The truth was I'd already decided, but they didn't need to know that yet. "Your grandmother wants to see you," he said at the door. "She says she has something important to tell you." "Tomorrow, maybe." After he left, I sat in my apartment surrounded by the life I'd built while funding theirs. My law degree on the wall, my promotion certificate fresh from the framer, evidence of real achievement, not fabricated success. My phone buzzed with updates. Tyler's bail hearing postponed, more fraud charges emerging. Stephanie had left the state. The family group chat devolved into blame and recrimination. Tyler's empire hadn't just unraveled, it had exploded, taking everyone's illusions with it. The golden child exposed as lead, the successful son revealed as a successful con artist, the family narrative rewritten in real time. And me, the villain of the morning, had become the victim by evening, the selfish daughter recast as the silent savior, the one they dismissed finally seen for who I'd always been. But being seen after being invisible for so long, it burned almost as much as the blindness had. My phone rang one more time, a number I didn't recognize. "Is this Amity Tyler's sister?" "Who's asking?" "My name is Vincent. Your brother owes me money, substantial money. I understand there's been a family dispute about finances." The loan shark, Tyler's final gift. "Tyler's debts are his own," I said firmly. "Don't contact me again." "Family debts have a way of becoming family problems, Ms. Amity. Tyler assured us his sister was good for it." Tyler lied. "Goodbye." I hung up and immediately called the lawyer Janet had recommended. It was time to protect myself legally from whatever Tyler's final implosion might bring. As I gave the lawyer the details, I thought about Stephanie's unborn child, Tyler's parents facing homelessness, grandmother's lost savings, the extended family's stolen trust, Vincent's implied threats. The unraveling was complete, but the aftermath was just beginning. And Tyler, sitting in a jail cell, was probably still spinning stories, still blaming everyone but himself. The golden child had turned to lead, and the weight of it was crushing everyone who'd ever believed in his shine. Standing in my grandmother's living room the next morning felt different. The throne-like wingback chair looked smaller somehow, its occupant frailer. At 93, my grandmother had weathered the Depression, 2 wars, and countless family dramas. But Tyler's betrayal had finally cracked her iron facade. "Sit," she said, but it was a request now, not a command. I took the chair across from her, the same one where I'd been interrogated just yesterday. The family photos on the mantel seemed to watch us, generations of relatives witnessing this moment. I owe you an apology. She began words that had probably never crossed her lips before. And I owe you more than that. I owe you the truth about why I've been so hard on you. Grandma, let me finish. I'm old. I might not get another chance. She pulled out a worn envelope from beside her chair. Your grandfather wrote this before he died. Made me promise to give it to you when the time was right. I've been a coward keeping it from you. My hands shook as I took the envelope. Grandfather had died 5 years ago just as my career was taking off. Inside, his careful handwriting filled 3 pages. My dearest Amity, it began, if you're reading this, then your grandmother has finally accepted what I've known all along. You are the strongest of us all. The letter detailed his observations over the years, how he'd watched me work twice as hard for half the recognition, how Tyler's charm had blinded the family to his character flaws, how he'd tried to warn them but been dismissed as playing favorites. I'm leaving you everything, the letter continued, not because you need it, but because you'll use it wisely. Your brother will contest it. Your family will pressure you. Stand firm. You've earned this through years of sacrifice they refuse to see. He left me everything? I looked up at grandmother, stunned. 200,000 in savings, his investment portfolio, the cabin upstate. Her voice was bitter. I convinced him to change it, said it would tear the family apart, said Tyler deserved a chance to prove himself. So you stole my inheritance. I redistributed it, gave Tyler 50,000 for his investments, gave your parents some for bills, kept the rest for the family's future. She laughed harsh and self-deprecating. Your grandfather was right. Tyler burned through his share in 6 months. Your parents used theirs to enable him further. And I let my prejudice against ambitious women cloud my judgment. The rage that filled me was quiet cold. 3 years of paying their mortgage while Tyler spent my inheritance. 3 years of sacrifice while sitting on money my grandfather had designated for me. Where's the rest? Gone. Tyler's borrowed against it. Your parents needed help. I thought I was keeping the family together. She met my eyes, hers filled with tears. Instead, I destroyed it. Before I could respond, voices filled the front hall, family members filing in for another emergency meeting, but I wasn't the defendant today. My parents entered first looking haggard. Behind them, various aunts, uncles, cousins. No Tyler, of course. He remained in custody bail unmet. We need to talk about the house, my father began without preamble. The bank is starting foreclosure proceedings. We have 30 days. And I kept my voice neutral. We're hoping you'll reconsider. Not for us, for the family history in that home. With what money grandmother just admitted she gave away my inheritance. The money I've spent keeping you housed. I'm tapped out. You have your promotion, Aunt Patricia pointed out. The salary increase gear that is mine for my future, not for cleaning up Tyler's mess. So you'll let us be homeless. My mother's manipulation was less subtle than usual. Your father's health, my job at the school, all gone because you're punishing Tyler. I stood grandfather's letter still in my hand. Here's my offer, one-time, non-negotiable. I'll assume the mortgage, but the house goes in my name. Solely. You can live there as my tenants paying fair rent. $800 a month, utilities included. That's highway robbery, Uncle Robert exploded. Taking advantage of family tragedy. Madison pulled out her phone. Actually, that's about 60% below market rate for that area. More than fair. Additionally, I continued, Tyler is banned from the property, permanently. Any contact with him, any money given to him, any enabling of his schemes, and you're evicted. No exceptions. You can't ban our son. My mother stood shaking with rage. He's made mistakes, but he's family. He's a criminal who tried to make you homeless for profit. Choose. Him or a home, not both. This is extortion, my father said quietly. No, this is consequence. Something Tyler's never faced because you all protected him from it. I pulled out the legal documents my lawyer had drawn up overnight. Sign today or find your own solution. I'm done negotiating. The room erupted, shouting accusations, pleading. But I stood firm. Grandfather's letter, my anchor. He'd seen this coming. He'd tried to protect me. Now I'd protect myself. What about when he gets out? Stephanie's voice came from the doorway. She'd returned looking exhausted. He'll need somewhere to go. That's his problem. And yours if you choose to stay with him. I'm not. I'm filing for a restraining order and getting a paternity test. I'm starting to doubt everything he's told me. Good for her. Maybe someone would emerge from this disaster wiser. You're destroying this family, grandmother said, but without her usual force. No, I'm saving what's left of it. Tyler destroyed it. You all just helped. One by one they left. No signatures. No acceptance. They'd rather risk homelessness than admit I was right. Pride goeth before a fall, and this family had more pride than sense. Only Madison lingered. You know they'll be back. When the reality hits, when they have nowhere else to turn. The offer stands for 48 hours. After that, I'm buying my own place. Let the house go to auction. She hugged me, surprising us both. Grandfather would be proud. You're the only one who inherited his backbone along with his eyes. After everyone left, I sat in my car outside grandmother's house processing the morning's revelations. My inheritance stolen, my generosity weaponized against me, my family choosing their delusions over reality. My phone buzzed, the lawyer. Ms. Amity, I've received an interesting call. Someone named Vincent claims your brother listed you as a guarantor for his debts. He forged documents. Appears so. We'll file charges, but you should increase your security. These people don't always wait for legal resolution. Perfect. Tyler's gifts kept giving. That afternoon, I went to see him. The county jail was a gray monument to poor choices filled with people who'd thought consequences were for others. Tyler sat across from me, orange jumpsuit replacing designer clothes, charm replaced by desperation. You came, he said, hope lighting his eyes. To tell you the deal, Mom and Dad can keep the house if they cut you off completely. Your choice. Their homelessness or your abandonment. His face cycled through emotions. Disbelief, anger, calculation, and finally rage. You'd use me against them. You use them against themselves. I'm just clarifying the cost. They'll never abandon me. I'm their son. You're their failure, and deep down they know it. The only question is whether they'll admit it in time to save themselves. You're enjoying this. It wasn't a question. No, satisfaction and enjoyment aren't the same. I'm satisfied that truth finally matters. I'm satisfied that consequences finally apply. But watching my family implode, no joy in that. I'll get out. I'll prove you all wrong. I'll make millions and laugh at your pathetic salary and suburban life. Maybe, or maybe you'll finally get a job and contribute something real. Either way, it won't be on my dime or my family's backs. I stood to leave, then paused. The jet ski, where is it? He actually smiled. Sold it. Yesterday morning before the arrest. Cash in hand. Stephanie doesn't know. Even facing ruin, he was scheming. The scorpion would sting the frog every time, no matter the cost. Good luck, Tyler. You'll need it where you're going. His final words followed me out. This isn't over. You'll regret this family helps family. But he was wrong. It was over. The ultimatum had been delivered. The family who'd enabled him would choose their delusion or their home, their toxic golden child or their future. And me, I'd chosen myself. Finally, completely, without apology. The drive home felt lighter, despite Vincent's threats, despite family rage, despite Tyler's promises of revenge. Because for the first time in 3 years, I wasn't carrying anyone else's weight. The ultimatum stood: choose Tyler or choose stability. Choose lies or choose shelter. Choose the past or choose the future. 48 hours to decide. The clock was ticking. Monday morning arrived with HR waiting in my office. Janet Morrison stood by the window, her expression professionally neutral, but her eyes sympathetic. Beside her, a man in a crisp suit held a folder that likely contained Tyler's anonymous complaint. "Amity, this is Richard Blackstone from Legal," Janet began. "We need to discuss the ethics complaint filed against you." "Of course." I settled into my chair, calm despite the circumstances. I'd been expecting this since Tyler's arrest. Richard opened his folder. "An anonymous complainant has alleged financial impropriety, abuse of company resources, and conduct unbecoming of a vice president. They've provided what appears to be substantial documentation." He spread papers across my desk, screenshots of my bank statements, the same ones Tyler had photographed during his break-in, financial records showing large monthly expenditures, even photos of me at expensive restaurants, though I recognized them as the client dinners I'd expensed properly. "The complainant suggests you've been living beyond your means, possibly embezzling or taking kickbacks," Richard continued. "They claim to be a concerned colleague who's noticed suspicious behavior." I almost laughed. Tyler's attempt at corporate sabotage was as subtle as his investment strategies. "I can explain every transaction," I said, pulling out my phone. "But first, you should see this." I showed them the security footage of Tyler breaking into my apartment. Janet's eyebrows rose. Richard leaned forward with interest. "That's the anonymous complainant." "My brother, Tyler Matthews, currently in county jail on fraud charges." I pulled up the arrest record. He made these allegations after I stopped paying our parents' mortgage, which I'd been covering secretly for 3 years. "Why secretly?" Richard asked. "Family dynamics. My parents favor Tyler. I didn't want the obligation to become expectation or worse, entitlement. Clearly, that strategy failed." I provided everything. Bank records showing the mortgage payments, the foreclosure notice from 6 months ago, email chains where Tyler took credit for my financial support. The restaurant receipts he claimed were suspicious, each matched to client meetings in my calendar. "This is comprehensive," Richard admitted, "but we still need to investigate. Standard protocol." "I understand. What else do you need?" "Your colleagues might be interviewed. Your expenses will be audited. It's going to be thorough and potentially uncomfortable." "Do what you need to do. I have nothing to hide." Janet spoke up. "Charles Morrison asked me to tell you he has complete faith in your integrity. This is procedure, not suspicion." "Tyler doesn't know that. He's hoping the investigation itself will damage me, even if it clears me." My assistant Catherine knocked and entered. "Amity, there's a man in the lobby insisting on seeing you. Security has him, but he's making a scene." Vincent. Tyler's loan shark had apparently decided on a direct approach. "Call the police," Richard said immediately. "If this is connected to your brother's criminal activities, we need documentation." The next hour was surreal. Police taking statements in our pristine corporate lobby, Vincent in handcuffs shouting about family debts and responsibilities, my colleagues watching through glass doors, whispers already starting. Tyler had brought his chaos to my workplace, the one space I'd kept separate from family drama. "We'll need to increase security," Richard said after the police left. "If your brother has connections to criminal elements—" "I'll work from home until this resolves," I offered. "No need to put anyone at risk." "Absolutely not." Janet's voice was steel. "You're a vice president of this company. We don't let criminals dictate our operations. We'll increase security, but you'll work from your office like normal." My phone buzzed. Madison texting urgently. "Tyler called from jail. He's claiming you framed him, that you're the one who stole from the family. He's convincing some relatives." Of course he was. Even in orange jumpsuit, Tyler could sell ice to Eskimos, or in this case, sell lies to people desperate to believe them. The rest of the day blurred between HR interviews, security briefings, and work. I tried to focus on despite everything. Each colleague who stopped by my office carried questions in their eyes, even if they didn't voice them. By evening, exhaustion weighed on me like a physical force. But the universe wasn't done yet. Charles Morrison himself appeared at my door as I packed up. At 72, he still commanded any room he entered, silver hair and sharp eyes, making him look like a CEO from Central Casting. "Walk with me," he said, not requesting. We strolled through the executive floor past offices I'd aspired to for years. Charles stayed silent until we reached his corner suite, gesturing me inside. 30 years ago, he began settling behind his desk. My brother tried to destroy my business. Jealousy mostly. He couldn't build, so he tried to tear down. I sat surprised by the personal revelation. He filed lawsuits, spread rumors, even hired someone to seduce my wife, though she saw through it immediately. He smiled at the memory. Family can be our greatest support or our greatest threat. Sometimes, both. How did you handle it? Exactly as you are, with documentation, dignity, and distance. The investigation will clear you. Your work speaks for itself, but your brother won't stop. Men like him, like my brother, they blame everyone for their failures except themselves. I know. Do you... He leaned forward, because what comes next will be harder. When the investigation clears you, when his lies collapse, when your family faces the consequences of enabling him, they'll turn their pain on you. You'll become the villain who was right, which is somehow worse than being wrong. I'm prepared for that. No one's ever prepared for family betrayal, but you're handling it better than I did. He stood meeting over. Take the rest of the week. Work from home if you need, but don't let him win by driving you away. I left his office with mixed emotions. Validation from the CEO himself, but also the weight of his prediction. The investigation would clear me, but what then? My phone provided the answer. 47 missed calls, the family group chat in meltdown, the 48-hour deadline approaching and panic setting in. Mom, the lawyer says we need to decide by tomorrow. This is cruel, Amity. Dad, your brother called. Says you set him up. Says you're stealing the house. Aunt Patricia, I always knew you were calculating, but this is beyond. Uncle Robert, family doesn't do this to family. But between the condemnations, cracks appeared. Madison, maybe if you'd listened to Amity instead of Tyler, none of this would be happening. Cousin James, Tyler owes me $2,000. Guess I'll never see that now. Grandmother, you reap what you sow. We sowed Tyler. We're reaping ruin. The investigation at work would examine my professional integrity. But the real investigation was happening in my family. 3 years of willful blindness finally under scrutiny. My doorbell rang at 9 p.m. Through the peephole, my parents stood in the hallway holding documents. I opened the door but didn't invite them in. Yes. We'll sign, my mother said, defeated. The house, the conditions, everything. Just, please. And Tyler, he made his choices, my father said quietly. We can't lose everything for someone who tried to destroy us all. I took the papers, reviewing them carefully, their signatures on every line accepting my terms. The house would be mine, they'd be tenants. Tyler would be banned. This doesn't mean we forgive you, my mother added, unable to resist a barb. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm offering shelter. Take it or don't, but don't confuse business with absolution. They left without another word, our relationship reduced to landlord and tenant. The investigation of Tyler's finances had forced them to investigate their own complicity. The results weren't pretty, but at least they were honest. My phone rang one more time. Catherine's still at the office. Amity, I thought you should know. I found something while preparing for the HR investigation. Tyler didn't just access our building once. Keycard logs show multiple entries over the past 6 months, always using visitor passes from different employees. He's been in our systems. Possibly. It is checking now, but Amity, if he accessed confidential information. Corporate espionage on top of everything else. Tyler's desperation knew no bounds. Document everything. I'll be in early tomorrow. The investigation was expanding, pulling in threads Tyler had woven throughout my life. Professional sabotage, personal betrayal, criminal connections. He'd built a web intended to trap me, not realizing spiders could get caught in their own silk. Tomorrow would bring more revelations, more damage assessment, more family members choosing sides. The investigation would continue thorough and ruthless. But tonight I had what mattered. My integrity intact, my home secured, my family's illusions finally shattered by truth too heavy to ignore. Tyler had wanted to destroy me. Instead, he'd destroyed himself and nearly everyone who'd enabled him. The investigation would document every detail, every lie, every theft. And when it was done, when the full scope of his deception was laid bare, the family who'd chosen him over me would have to live with that choice. The golden child had turned to lead, and the weight of him was drowning them all. The courthouse steps seemed steeper than they should have been, each one a small mountain of anticipation. 3 weeks had passed since Tyler's arrest. 3 weeks of investigations, revelations, and family warfare conducted through lawyers and social media. Richard Blackstone walked beside me, briefcase in hand, his presence a reminder that this wasn't just family drama anymore. This was criminal court. "Remember," he said as we reached the doors, "you're here as a witness, not a victim. Stay factual, not emotional." Inside the courtroom hummed with tension. Tyler sat at the defendant's table in a suit that didn't fit right, probably public defender standard issue. His lawyer, an exhausted-looking woman named Patricia Chen, shuffled papers with practiced efficiency. My family filled one section, divided even in their seating. Parents on one side, extended family scattered allegiances, visible in the empty seats between clusters. Stephanie sat alone in the back, her pregnancy now showing restraining order, paperwork clutched in her hands. "The state versus Tyler Matthews," the bailiff announced. "Charges include fraud, identity theft, breaking and entering, and attempted corporate espionage." The last charge was new, added after IT discovered Tyler had accessed my company's computer systems using stolen credentials. He'd downloaded client lists, financial projections, anything he could sell or use against me. The prosecutor, Amanda Walsh, had warned me this would be rough. "Your brother's defense is basically that you set him up, that this is retaliation for family disputes. He's painting himself as the victim of a vindictive sister." Now, watching Tyler's face as I took the stand, I saw that narrative alive in his eyes. Even here, even now, he believed his own lies. State your name for the record." "Amity Matthews, Vice President at Morrison and Associates." "Ms. Matthews, can you describe your relationship with the defendant?" I kept my voice steady. "Tyler is my younger brother." "And what was the nature of your financial relationship?" The questions came methodically, building the case brick by brick. The mortgage payments, the secret support, the stolen celebration, the break-in, each fact supported by documentation, bank records, security footage. "Did you ever give the defendant permission to access your apartment?" "No." "Did you authorize him to use your financial information?" "No." "Did you know he was presenting your payments as his own?" "Not until recently." Patricia Chen stood for cross-examination, her tired eyes sharpening. "Ms. Matthews, isn't it true you're significantly wealthier than your brother?" "I earn more, yes." "And you chose to make these mortgage payments secretly?" "Yes." "Why secretly? Why not tell your family about your generosity?" I chose my words carefully. I didn't want the help to become an expectation or obligation. "Or did you enjoy the power knowing you could stop at any time and destroy your family?" "Objection," Amanda Walsh called out. "Argumentative." Sustained. But the seed was planted. Throughout her questioning, Patricia Chen painted me as calculating, controlling, using money as a weapon. It might have worked, except for one thing: the evidence was overwhelming. Tyler took the stand in his own defense, and watching him weave his narrative was almost impressive. In his version, I'd always been jealous of his potential. I'd sabotaged his opportunities, hidden his success, stolen credit for his achievements. She couldn't stand that I was successful without following her corporate path, he said, managing to look wounded. When I bought the jet ski with my investment return, she snapped. And the mortgage payments, his lawyer prompted. I was managing our parents' finances, organizing their bills, helping with budgeting. Amity might have provided some funds, but I was the one ensuring they were used properly. And the break-in. I had permission to be there. I was checking on her after our family dispute. The security footage doesn't show me taking anything because I didn't. Lie after lie delivered with such conviction, I almost believed them myself. But then, Amanda Walsh began her cross-examination, and Tyler's house of cards faced a hurricane. Mr. Matthews, you claim you were managing your parents' finances. Can you provide any documentation of this? It was informal. Family doesn't always document everything. I see. And these investment returns you mentioned. Can you show the court any trading records, bank statements, tax returns? Silence. Mr. Matthews, the market is complex. My strategies are proprietary. So that's a no. You have no proof of any investment income. I have proof of success. The jet ski, which you sold the morning of your arrest, correct. Can you tell the court what happened to that money? Tyler's composure cracked slightly. I needed liquid funds for business opportunities. Or to pay gambling debts. I have here records from various casinos showing significant losses over the past year. I hadn't known about the gambling. From my family's gasps, neither had they. That's recreation, networking. You wouldn't understand. I understand you lost $47,000 at poker tables while your sister paid your parents' mortgage. Is that accurate? The questioning continued, each answer digging Tyler deeper. The job he'd turned down, the money he'd stolen from grandmother, the loans from family members, the corporate espionage that could have destroyed my career. When court recessed for lunch, my family sat in stunned silence. The full scope of Tyler's deceptions laid bare in legal testimony was different from family gossip. It was real, documented, undeniable. My mother approached me in the hallway. The gambling, we didn't know. There's a lot you didn't know or didn't want to know. How much else? How deep does this go? I looked at her, this woman who'd chosen blindness over truth for so long. Deeper than you imagine. And this is just what they can prove in court. The afternoon session brought character witnesses. Colleagues testified about my integrity. The mortgage company confirmed the payment history. Even Derek Tyler's friend took the stand to describe the lies he'd been told. But the most damaging testimony came from Stephanie. He told me his sister was jealous and vindictive, she said, voice shaking. Said she'd try to turn everyone against him. He was preemptively discrediting her. Did he mention any specific plans? He said once his parents' house went into foreclosure, insurance would pay it off. Said he'd found a loophole. He just needed to wait for the right time. And what about Ms. Matthews' promotion dinner? He laughed about it, showed me how he'd redirected the invitations, said she needed to be taught humility. By the time closing arguments began, Tyler's defense had evaporated. Patricia Chen did her best arguing about family dynamics and misunderstandings, but facts were facts. The jury deliberated for less than 2 hours. Guilty on all charges. Tyler's face went through its familiar cycle of emotions, landing on rage. As court officers moved to take him into custody pending sentencing, he turned to our family. This is all her fault. She destroyed us. She could have helped, but she chose revenge. No, my father said quietly. You destroyed yourself. We just helped by looking the other way. Tyler was led away, still shouting about injustice and betrayal. The family filed out, slowly processing what they'd witnessed. The golden child publicly revealed as tarnished beyond repair. Outside the courthouse, Vincent waited with 2 large men. Richard immediately called security, but Vincent raised his hands peacefully. Just wanted you to know, he said to me, your brother's debts are his own now. Court records make that clear. No point pursuing family for a convict's markers. Small mercies from unexpected sources. Amity, my grandmother called out. She'd attended every day of the trial, silent in the gallery. I have something to say. The family gathered, probably expecting another lecture about family loyalty. Instead, she looked directly at me. I was wrong. About you, about Tyler, about everything. Your grandfather saw what we refused to see. I'm sorry. Apologies from grandmother were rarer than unicorns. I nodded, accepting what she could offer, even if it couldn't undo the past. What happens now? Madison asked. Tyler will be sentenced next month. Probably 2 to 5 years considering the charges. Restitution hearings will follow. And us, my mother's voice was small. The house. The deal stands. You're my tenants. Follow the rules, pay the rent, and you'll have a home. And when Tyler gets out, that's years away. Focus on rebuilding now. As we dispersed, my phone buzzed. Charles Morrison texting personally, saw the news. Well handled. Your desk awaits when you're ready. The legal battle was won, but the war for my family's soul would continue. Tyler's conviction wouldn't erase years of enabling. His imprisonment wouldn't restore my stolen inheritance or lost years. But it was a start. Truth had won in court. Justice had been served, measured in years rather than dollars. And Tyler, he'd finally found a place where his lies couldn't protect him, where charm couldn't replace consequences. For the first time in his life, he'd have to face reality without family money to cushion the fall. The golden child had been weighed, measured, and found guilty. The rest of us would have to learn to live in the ruins of his deception, building something better from the rubble. 6 weeks after the trial, I stood in my parents' driveway holding a new set of keys. The house looked the same from the outside, weathered brick and fading shutters, but everything about it had changed. Most importantly, the deed now bore my name alone. Inside, my parents had aged years in months. They moved tentatively in their own home, now my property adjusting to the reversal of power dynamics. The dining room table where Tyler had held court sat empty of his presence, his chair pushed against the wall like a monument to absence. The first month's rent, my father said, handing me a check. $800 written in his careful teacher's handwriting. It feels strange paying to live in our own home. It's my home now, I corrected gently. Your tenants. There's a difference. My mother emerged from the kitchen carrying coffee in cups I'd drunk from since childhood. We sat at the table, 3 people navigating the wreckage of family mythology. Tyler called yesterday, she said quietly, from prison. I waited. He wanted money for commissary, said the food is terrible, that he needs funds for basic necessities. And I told him no. The words seemed to physically hurt her. First time I've ever refused him anything. Progress painful and necessary. He's filed an appeal, like my father added. Claims ineffective counsel. The lawyer says it won't go anywhere, but you hope it will. They exchanged glances, 28 years of parenting battling with reality. We want our son back, my mother admitted. Not the criminal he became, but the boy he was. The one who made us laugh, who had such dreams. That boy was already lying, I said, not unkindly. You just couldn't see it yet. My phone buzzed. Stephanie texting from her mother's house in Michigan where she'd fled to have the baby. She'd been updating me regularly, finding in me the sister she'd thought she was getting in Tyler. Amniocentesis came back. It's Tyler's. Due date in December. Another innocent casualty of Tyler's destruction. A child who'd grow up with a father in prison and a legacy of lies to overcome. Stephanie's having the baby I told my parents. Your grandchild. My mother's face crumpled. We'll never see it. She has that restraining order. She's protecting herself and the baby. From Tyler, not necessarily from you. Prove you've changed, really changed, and maybe she'll reconsider. The doorbell rang, interrupting our awkward coffee. Madison stood outside, laptop under her arm, smile, nervous but determined. I have something to show you, Alger, she announced, setting up at the dining table. I've been doing some forensic accounting, trying to track where all the money went. The spreadsheet she displayed was comprehensive. 3 years of family finances color-coded and categorized. The full scope of Tyler's deceptions laid out in cells and formulas. He took at least 300,000, she said, between Amity's payments, family loans, grandmother's money credit cards, and everything else. The 300,000, my father's face went white. That's impossible. Here's every transaction. Casino losses, 97,000. Luxury purchases, 68,000. Failed investments, 45,000. The rest went to living expenses trips, entertaining friends who thought he was rich. Where's the jet ski money? I asked. Madison clicked to another tab. This is interesting. He sold it for 15,000 cash the morning of his arrest. But that money vanished. No deposits, no purchases tracked to that day. He hid it, my mother said slowly. He knew he was going down and hid 15,000 somewhere. Probably. Madison closed the laptop. But here's why I really came. I've created a repayment plan. If everyone Tyler owes agrees, we can file civil suits jointly, maximize the chance of restitution. He's in prison. Uncle Robert had arrived, letting himself in as family always had. Can't get blood from a stone. No, but we can get wages garnished when he's out. Assets seized if he ever acquires any. Make sure he can't profit from his story or anything else without paying back what he stole. You want to punish him forever? My mother's protective instincts flared despite everything. I want accountability, Madison countered, something this family's never required from Tyler. Aunt Patricia joined us, then grandmother, driven by her caregiver. Soon the dining room filled with family members, the first gathering since Tyler's sentencing. Everyone who'd been deceived, stolen from, manipulated. I've been thinking, grandmother said, her voice still commanding attention, about patterns. My father spoiled my brother. I spoiled Tyler. Both times the favored son became a parasite. Mom, Aunt Patricia protested, that's harsh. Truth often is. We created Tyler by excusing him, by believing his lies because they were prettier than Amity's truth. We chose the story we wanted over the reality we had. Oh, so what do we do now? Cousin James asked. How do we move forward? I stood looking around the table at faces I'd known my whole life. We start by being honest. About money, about relationships, about expectations. No more secrets. No more enabling. Easy for you to say, Uncle Robert grumbled. You got the house. You got the promotion. You won. Won. I laughed, but it wasn't bitter anymore. Just tired. I paid $95,000 to learn my family valued a con artist over me. I nearly lost my career to his revenge. I live with security concerns because of his gambling debts. What exactly did I win? Clarity, grandmother said simply. You won clarity. The rest of us are still earning it. Over the next 2 hours we talked. Really talked. Not the surface pleasantries of family gatherings, but deep, uncomfortable truths. Who owed what? Who knew what when? Who suspected but stayed quiet? Madison compiled it all, building a comprehensive case for restitution. Not revenge, but responsibility, making Tyler face consequences even if it took decades. There's one more thing, I said as the gathering wound down. Grandfather's letter mentioned he wanted me to have something beyond the money Tyler stole, the cabin upstate. Grandmother nodded. It's yours. Always should have been. Tyler wanted to sell it, but I held firm on that at least. I'm not taking it for me, I continued. I'm putting it in trust for Stephanie's baby, somewhere Tyler can never touch, but his child might someday have. Breaking the pattern. My parents cried. Quiet tears for the grandchild they might never know, the son they'd lost to his own greed, the daughter they'd nearly lost to their blindness. As family members left, each stopped to speak with me. Apologies mostly, acknowledgments of truths they'd ignored. Promise to do better. Madison coordinated signatures for the civil suit, turning family pain into legal action. You could have let us all rot, Uncle Robert admitted at the door. After how he treated you, you could have walked away. I did walk away, from enabling, from silence, from pretending. But family, I looked at the house I now owned, the responsibility I'd shouldered. Family you don't walk away from. You just learn better boundaries. By evening, only my parents and I remained. We sat in the living room, photo albums spread on the coffee table, pictures of Tyler and me as children before the golden child narrative took hold, before money mattered more than character. Will you ever forgive us? My mother asked. Forgiveness isn't a switch you flip. It's a process. Show me you've learned. Show me you can love without enabling. Show me Tyler was the exception, not the rule. And if he gets out and comes here, then you call the police. That's the deal. He's banned from this property forever. Forever is a long time, my father said softly. So was 3 years of paying your bills while he got the credit. Forever seems fair. They went to bed in the house I owned, tenants where they'd once been masters. I stayed up longer, reviewing the restitution paperwork, thinking about Stephanie's baby, wondering if patterns could truly be broken. My phone lit up with a notification, an email from Charles Morrison. Board meeting Thursday. We're discussing your future. Big things ahead. The professional life Tyler had tried to destroy was thriving. The family he'd manipulated was slowly healing. The money he'd stolen would eventually be reclaimed, even if it took decades. And Tyler himself, sitting in a cell, probably spinning new lies to fellow inmates. But lies had limited currency in prison. Eventually, even he would run out of people to fool. The resolution wasn't neat. Real life never tied up with perfect bows, but it was progress. Truth acknowledged, consequences accepted, patterns recognized, if not yet fully broken. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. Stephanie's baby would arrive in a few months. Tyler would eventually be released. The family would continue struggling with the boundaries between support and enabling. But tonight in the house I'd saved from foreclosure, with parents learning to be tenants and family learning to be honest, it was enough. The golden child had fallen. The scapegoat had risen. And maybe, just maybe, we'd all learned something about the true value of family versus the fool's gold of comfortable lies. 1 year later, I stood in my grandmother's house, now transformed into something unrecognizable from that awful family tribunal. Thanksgiving preparations filled the kitchen with familiar smells, but everything else had changed. The dining room table stretched longer than before, extra leaves added to accommodate our reconfigured family. Place cards marked each seat, a new tradition I'd insisted on. No more hierarchies, no more power positions. Everyone equal around the table. My mother emerged from the kitchen carrying her famous sweet potato casserole, moving with the careful dignity of someone who'd learned humility the hard way. She and my father had become model tenants, never missing rent, maintaining the house better than they had as owners. The power dynamic had shifted, but something healthier had grown in its place. Stephanie just pulled up, Madison announced from the window. Little Emma's awake. Emma, Tyler's daughter, now 10 months old, with her father's eyes, but hopefully not his character. Stephanie had gradually allowed my parents supervise visits, watching carefully for signs of the old enabling patterns. So far, they'd been perfect grandparents, supportive without overindulging, present without overstepping. The turkey needs another hour, my father called out, wearing the apron I'd bought him that read, Reformed Enabler. His choice, not mine. He'd developed an unexpected sense of humor about our family's spectacular fall from dysfunction. Grandmother sat in her chair, 94 now, and fragile as spun glass, but her mind remained sharp. She'd become our unofficial family historian, documenting the lessons learned so future generations might avoid our mistakes. Tell me again about the letter, she said, though she knew the story perfectly. It had become a ritual, this retelling of how grandfather had seen. what we'd all missed. I sat beside her, unfolding the now worn pages. He wrote, "Amity has the strength to carry this family, but wisdom lies in knowing when to set the burden down." Smart man, she murmured. I should have listened. The doorbell rang. Aunt Patricia arrived with Uncle Robert and their children, arms full of contributions to dinner. The old hierarchy would have had them empty-handed, expecting others to provide. Now everyone contributed according to their ability. "Any word from Tyler?" Robert asked quietly, the question we all wondered but rarely voiced. "He sent a letter last week," I admitted. "From his new facility. He's in a rehabilitation program now. Seems to be taking it seriously." "Do you believe him?" Patricia studied my face. "I believe he's finally facing consequences he can't charm his way out of. Whether that leads to real change," I shrugged. "Time will tell." Tyler had served 18 months of his sentence when the prison offered an intensive rehabilitation program, 6 months of therapy job training, and most importantly, accountability exercises. His letters had slowly shifted from blame to something approaching responsibility. "He asked about Emma," my mother added softly. "Wanted to know if he could send a birthday card." "Stephanie's choice," I said firmly, "but he needs to respect whatever she decides." The table filled gradually. Cousin James with his new fiancée warned thoroughly about our family history. Other relatives who'd learned hard lessons about trust and verification. Even Derek arrived, still friends with me, despite everything, bringing his signature corn pudding. "Before we eat," I said, standing with a glass of sparkling cider, "I want to acknowledge what this year has taught us." The room quieted. Faces turned toward me with respect that had been hard-earned. We learned that love without accountability is destruction, that enabling isn't kindness, that family means supporting each other's growth, not subsidizing each other's failures. "Hear, hear," Madison raised her glass. She'd become our unofficial family CFO, keeping everyone honest about finances, ensuring transparency where secrets once festered. We also learned, I continued, that redemption is possible, that people can change, but only when they face truth instead of comfortable lies. That forgiveness is a process, not an event. "To hard truths," Grandmother said, raising her glass with trembling hands. "To hard truths," we echoed. Dinner conversation flowed easier than it had in years. No tiptoeing around Tyler's absence. No pretending perfection, just real people discussing real lives' successes and failures alike. "I got promoted," James announced. "Senior accountant now." "Congratulations," I said, genuinely pleased. "You earned it." "Actually learned from watching you," he admitted. "How you handled everything with integrity even when it cost you, made me want to earn my success instead of expecting it." My mother reached over and squeezed my hand, a silent acknowledgement of the example I'd set, despite their blindness to it for so long. "Stephanie, how's the nursing program?" Madison asked. Challenging, but good," Stephanie replied, bouncing Emma on her knee. "The scholarship's helping. Should graduate next year." The scholarship fund had been my idea, funded partially by the restitution payments that trickled in from Tyler's prison job earnings, turning his debts into opportunity for his daughter and her mother. "Any word on the promotion?" my father asked me. I smiled. "Senior vice president, youngest in company history." The table erupted in genuine congratulations. No jealousy, no diminishment, no comparison to absent golden children. Just family celebrating success earned through integrity. "Charles Morrison says I remind him of himself at my age," I added. Apparently, dealing with family adversity while maintaining professional excellence impressed him. "You impressed us too," my mother said quietly, "even if we were too stupid to show it then." After dinner, as dishes were cleared and leftovers distributed equally, another new tradition, Stephanie approached me privately. "I've decided about Tyler's letter to Emma," she said. "He can send it. Through you so you can screen it first. Baby steps." "You sure?" She deserves to know her father exists, even if she can't know him yet. Maybe by the time she's old enough to understand, he'll be someone worth knowing. The evening wound down with board games instead of Tyler holding court laughter, instead of lectures honesty instead of performance. Grandmother dozed in her chair, peaceful in a way she hadn't been when defending the indefensible. Same time next month for Christmas, Madison asked as people gathered coats. My house this time, I said. The cabin's finally renovated. Grandfather's cabin, now mine restored with money I could spare since I wasn't funding anyone's deceptions. A place for new memories, untainted by old patterns. As the house emptied, my parents and I cleaned up together, working in companionable silence. The family photos on the mantel had been rearranged. Tyler still appeared in childhood pictures, but the recent ones that had dominated were gone. Balance restored. Thank you, my father said suddenly, for saving us from ourselves. I saved myself first, I corrected. You just benefited from the aftermath. Still, we could have been homeless broken if you hadn't. But you weren't. And now you know why boundaries matter, why accountability matters, why truth matters more than comfort. My phone buzzed. A text from Charles Morrison. Hope your Thanksgiving was peaceful. Board approved the succession plan. Let's discuss your path to CEO on Monday. CEO track at 30. It seemed impossible, but then again, so had surviving my family's implosion. One more thing, my mother said, pulling out an envelope. This came yesterday. We wanted you to see it. Inside was a check for $5,000. The memo line read, from Tyler Matthews, partial restitution payment. More to come. He sold his commissary business to another inmate, she explained. Said he wanted to start making things right, even if it takes forever. 5,000 against, 300,000 stolen, a drop in an ocean. But it was a start, the first money Tyler had earned honestly in his adult life. Whoa, frame it, I suggested. Reminder that anyone can change if they choose to. As I drove home to my apartment, I thought about the journey from last Thanksgiving to this one. From sitting alone at an empty restaurant to hosting a full table. From funding lies to enforcing truth. From invisible sacrifice to acknowledged leadership. The city lights sparkled with possibility. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. Tyler would eventually be released, testing our rebuilt boundaries. Emma would grow up navigating the legacy of her father's choices. The family would continue its slow evolution from dysfunction to health. But tonight, full of good food and better company, surrounded by family who'd learned to see me for who I was, rather than what I could provide, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years. Peace. The new beginning wasn't perfect. Real life never is. But it was honest, built on truth instead of comfortable lies, accountability instead of enabling genuine love instead of transactional relationships. And Tyler. His latest letter sat on my kitchen counter waiting to be read. Not urgent anymore, just another piece of communication from a brother learning consequences the hard way. I'd read it tomorrow or next week when I felt ready. He could wait for once while I lived my life on my terms. The golden child had fallen, the family had shattered and reformed, and I had risen not as anyone's savior or villain, but simply as myself. Finally, that was enough. I'd love to know, have you ever had to set firm boundaries with family members who took advantage of your kindness? How did you find the strength to choose yourself while still maintaining love for them? Share your experiences in the comments below. You might help someone else going through a similar situation. If this story resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe to hear more stories about families finding truth, accountability, and ultimately healing. Share this with anyone who needs to hear that it's okay to stop enabling, even when it's family. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Remember, sometimes the most loving thing you can do is stop cushioning someone else's fall and let them learn to fly on their own.